Hi sophomores, welcome to this how-to video. We are going to be talking about design concepts and then later on common website layouts. So before we get started with this, you can see this is a very fancy definition of design, but in summary, it just means that everything is created with a purpose. So somebody had an issue, they thought of a solution, they manufactured it, and then it came about. This can be applied to everything in your life, the way key sounds, the way certain logos are made. It doesn't necessarily need to serve like a purpose of doing something, but it can make you feel something. They could use it to their advantage to tap at your feelings in order to sell even more. So just know that everything is designed with a purpose. Nothing is just made just because. So there are different types of design. You have architectural design, so like buildings, even tall like skyscrapers, like they have a purpose. You can see graphic design with the McDonald's logo that is meant to be very powerful and make you remember things and make you want to go there. It also taps on like colors. Colors can make you feel certain ways, so like red can be a color associated with love and yellow with happiness. So you're associating that logo with like wanting it and feeling happy. You also have like phone design. All of our phones are designed with a purpose, even to the way you hold them, to the way you can talk through them, the way the buttons are. And you also have fashion design. All of our clothes are made to serve with a purpose. Today we are going to be talking about visual design. And we're going to be covering the 7 basic elements of visual design. You will notice that a lot of these are very similar to what we talked about during photography. And that is because, like I told you then, we as humans are very visual creatures. So there's a lot that you can do by doing things that are visually pleasing. So the first thing is line. Our eyes are kind of trained to follow lines. So you can use lines to your advantage. They make things more powerful. They make your audience look at the end product and follow it along. So this is something that you can use. You also have shapes. So you can play around with shapes. You can add in shapes here and there to make something stand out or make somebody maybe feel some way. I know with your websites, it may be a little hard to play around with shapes, but this is something that you can always try, like with backgrounds. The next thing will be direction. So where are you placing things? How are they in comparison to each other? Is there a pattern they follow? Like, do I need to start from left to right? Or am I going from top to bottom? Like, you have to play around with like where you're placing things to make sure it is the way that you want your audience to look at it and the way that you want them to understand things. You also have size, which again may be a little hard to play around with in your website, but it doesn't hurt to try. Making things bigger makes them stand out and makes them feel more powerful, and it gives them more importance. You can do the same with like small things and making them seem a little not as important, but still playing a role. And then you have textured. Again, you cannot do that with your website. But in everyday design, this plays a big role just because the texture of things makes it stand out. It's going to make you, if it looks like it's soft, it's going to make you feel all like warm and fuzzy, and it's going to give you a feeling, and you can touch things. You also have color. So color is extremely important. Color, as I have been mentioning, can help you retain people's attention because you make them feel a certain way. And if you design something that's going to make them feel a certain way, in turn, you can accomplish your goal, whether that is to make them feel happy or to feel sad or to make them want more of your things. This can make it or break it. It's important when you're working with colors that you make sure that they don't clash. So you want to work with colors that are complementary, colors that are going to go well together and are still going to give it life to your website. And this one is value, which goes hand in hand with color. So you can play around with these, especially with like white and black. You can use those as colors to make something stand out, feel happy, feel important. So now let's talk about the 7 key principles of design. The first one being balance. So nothing should feel like it's clashing. Nothing should feel like it's out of shape. If you have a theme, for example, like maybe the theme of my website is like rainbows and unicorns, and it's all like rainbows and bright and glitter, I can't just stick in a very dark emoji in the middle of it. Like that's just gonna seem very weird and it's not gonna go together. It needs to have that balance of the colors match, everything seems proportionate to each other. With that, you also have gradation, which you have seen it in that like ombre style with Kim's website. This is something really cool to play around with. It adds more to your website, adds more to your design, and it makes it even more powerful. Kim had it in her navigation. You could also use repetition. We talked about repetition during photography. It makes your eyes be drawn to things, and it makes you catch things that are meant to be important. So you could have like a repetition of things and then one odd thing, meaning maybe you change the font or the color. It's going to make that one thing stand out. Next thing is contrast. Just like we have been talking with colors, make sure that your colors are going to go together and they're not going to overwhelm your audience. So you want it to be complementary colors, not clashing colors. Harmony goes with the colors and balance and everything else we've been talking about. It should feel like it's cohesive. It shouldn't feel like you just threw in random things together and called it a day, but more so that you sat down and had time to think about your design and how it was going to come together and be one. And then you also have dominance. So you can make things stand out and be dominant in your design. Again, goes back to colors. It can make it still have a harmony to it, but have something that has a dominance and makes it more powerful. Like maybe you can play around with this with your banner. Like you would want your banner to really stand out because you're talking about a person that you care about, or even your titles. And you also have unity, which goes hand in hand with harmony. Everything needs to go together, should feel as one. And also important to this is that you don't want things to be like super spaced out, that they're not going to go together. So things that should go together should be next to each other. Just like we talked about with the park system. Like I shouldn't have my buttons one on each corner because that's going to overwhelm my audience and that's not going to look pleasing. So things that are meant to be together should go together and be grouped together. So these are the elements of design that I want you to keep in mind when creating your rough draft. But now let's talk about the website layouts. Once you pick one, you have to stick with it. You can't have each page be different because it goes back to that harmony of things and that balance. So here's your zone of your website. So you can pick whatever layout you want as long as you are meeting these zones. So you have your header, you have your navigation, you have your body, and you have your footer. So these are the very important things that you always want to have. However you place them, that is up to you. So I'm going to start showing you some layouts. So this is a very typical layout that you can see. Header on top, navigation either on left or right, content straight in the middle, and footer in the bottom. It's very comfortable, very easy to follow. Here's the variation with it on the opposite side. What you could also do is do your header, your navigation, your content, a navigation, and a footer. So this is similar to what that ITA website that I showed you follows. We used to have our navigation right at the top with the header and navigation flipped. You have your content, you can have double navigation to make it easier. It depends on what you're trying to get at. If you want it to make it easier for your audience, like you don't want them to have to scroll the way up to get to it, you can put it on the side or even in the bottom. Or you can just say, I want it to be very linear and I want it to be top to bottom. And you can see that with websites like Amazon Amazon has their header, their navigation, their content, footer, and then you scroll all the way back up in order to get back to that navigation. Or you can also add to have your navigation top and bottom, so they don't have to scroll. You can also do a split where you have like your header and then right next to it, your navigation, content, and footer. As you can see in all of these, it's just a variation of the 4 elements, and it's truly up to you which one is going to work best for your website and what you are trying to accomplish. Do you want to make it very simple and just stick to kind of header, navigation, body, footer? Or do you want to make it easier? Do you want to put several navigations? Whatever you want. You can see here a case where you can have navigation on both sides. And those are all of the ones that I want to talk about. Again, it is completely up to you which one you go with. But once you pick one, you have to stick with it. You cannot change it halfway through. It is going to lose that balance and that harmony in your website. So we want to avoid that. You don't want to disrupt your design. So pick one. Think about what you want your audience to feel like and what you want them to think. Easy, comfortable, unique. As long as you have the 4 elements, you can play around with it. Completely up to you and your creative endeavors. Just pick one and stick with it, okay? If you have any questions about any of this topic, feel free to email me and I'll be happy to help. That is it for this lesson, and I'll see you on the next one.